Hello, everybody. It's me, the Nutty Professor, and I'm back. Now, those of you who've seen the latest series, the dark series, the Dark Journey series, will realize that there is a particular significance to the "I'm back." I've heard from a couple of friends who have been very worried about me because they really thought that I wasn't going to make it. I've been very worried. So I'm just showing you there's a baby is there, and then another baby is here, the cat bed, and Agitha was there, but as a friend of mine said in an email just a couple of minutes ago, I sent her some pictures from before, and she said the kids have really stepped up their game because we're at a whole new level of family togetherness here. They know something really bad has been going on, and they're doing all they can. So as I said, this kind of put an obligation on me to do all I can to stay here to look after them. So last night, so just to fill you in, just to bring you up to speed on what's going on here, I'm still here, obviously, and yes, what I showed you in in the last of the journey video, I actually showed you the empty tray, and those have been. So that's what, 2 days now. So day 2, day 3 clear. That was actually the last, for now, lines that I did, and then after that, I taped the next one here in the living room, and I just rested. That was quite an ordeal. And as I said, it was a close call because they did 3.5 grams, and they say in one day, and they say 6 to 6.5 is the fatal level. But that's, it depends on other things like body weight and age. Now, age is what I have going against me. At my age, and then I do have diabetes. So at my age, that was a very close call. I hadn't eaten, hadn't taken my diabetes meds, but I didn't really feel the chest pains or anything, little bit, but that's, I think, to be expected, that kind of stress. So that was in the morning. So I taped that, and I just sat here and rested, and the kids were here, and they were very worried, and I tried to reassure them that things are bad, but gonna get better, hopefully. And then after posting, that was a bit of an effort. I taped and posted 7 in that state. I taped and posted 7 podcasts, and sent the links. And then I just kind of semi-dozed here for 3 or 4 hours. Not really dozed, just, because you can't really sleep when, that much stimulant. So I just semi-dozed here. And then at around noon or 1, by that time I was down. So by the time I stopped taking, I think at around 3 or 4 or whatever, 3. So by noon 1, I was down, and I was quote sober, unquote sober, and then I rested, like semi-dozed, as I said, and then I had to go get the car. So I left the babies in their room just to be on the safe side, and I had a shower, got dressed, going out into the world. Just lucky I was able to do that. But anyway, so I went. I took a cab to the place where I had parked the car, which was the Mercedes. I picked up the Mercedes and I drove to a nearby Vietnamese place, and I had a nice long lunch, the first food that I had in quite some time, and took my diabetes meds. And then, one of my friends who I told this about said this was a very good sign to her. From there, I drove to the car wash. I washed the car. She said, when I start washing cars, that's a sign of return to normalcy. And then I drove back to the kids, stopping on the way. Actually, I stopped on the way to go to Sobeys to buy some stuff. But I was still tired. I was not high, but I was tired from the not having slept and the exhaustion, and the sunlight was out. So I pulled into a Sobeys parking lot and I just fell asleep in the car for like 3 hours. So I slept for 3 hours, got up, went into the Sobeys, bought some snacks, like stale tuna sandwiches, and it's like day old special, day old salad. I'm not sure why I was trying to save money because I've just spent a lot. But anyway, so I bought some day old food, and I came back to the kids and let the babies out of their room. Had some day old tuna sandwich and salad. Fed the three kids first. Actually, obviously, cat parent. I feed my children before I feed myself. So I fed the kids, even though during the worst of the binge, I was still feeding them, but dry food and water, and I fed them wet when I could. But this time, once I was back, starting to come back, I gave them, the best wet food, made sure the water, litter boxes, all that were okay, and I just crashed on what has become a Gita's bed with the door open. And so I just went into here, maybe 9 o'clock, and I crashed, here. And I woke up in the morning. I woke up at about, 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning. So however, 14 hours or whatever, and I was lying in the bed, and all three kids were in the bedroom. See, lying in the bed, and I see that Agita was there. This is one of her new favorite spots. Door wide open. One baby was there, so I was lying there. I could see the baby, and the other baby was by my feet, right there. So, and really, these are my three reasons. These are my three reasons for returning. And the fact that we came so close, and my two cat rescuer friends, one in province and one out of province, have been kind of preparing for the worst case scenario, because I've given, the one out of province, the number of the one in province here. So if something really bad happens to me, basically they're meaning if I don't make it back from a binge, then they can kind of, coordinate with each other and try to rehome my kids. And just the thought of that, especially considering how wonderful my kids are and how much they've done for me, is that, and how very much I love them. And the thought of them being rehomed, even that isn't quite enough. And that shows how powerful the other thing is. So it's I woke up today in the morning, and I just looked at the kids, and I was just, I've done this before, but this time I got closer. And I woke up, 14 hours sleep, still feeling a little tired, but I went so far that I might not have come back even this time. And the people who have seen this, you realize that I'm not exaggerating. That was really, really close to the edge, or over the edge, and particularly at my age. So the reality is there. It's always been there, that, these are very dangerous, So, but this time, this was no question the worst. And this time, this sort of a record of it, Oh, and I also heard from my analyst last night. He called, and we talked a bit, and and he gave some good advice. And he said he'll check in with me again. So I'm back, but the question is now how to stay here. So it's one day at a time. Now, the fucked up thing is that in spite of all of that, in spite of the awareness, in spite of knowing what could have happened to me, in spite of how much I love my kids and how much I'd hate for them to be rehomed, and also my friends. My friends are very important to me. I don't see them much, but and I know that they'll be very upset. The one out of Providence, is really very upset. If she doesn't hear from me in a couple of hours, she starts worrying. So, and then another former student of mine, not a cat person, but a car person, and he didn't quite realize how bad the addiction was. I told him about it, but he didn't quite realize how bad it was until he saw the witch videos, and now he's very upset, and he's giving me advice. Now, from a non-addictive personality, but his advice is, he really does mean well, and he says, you can stop if you really want to, and it's a conscious decision. It is, and it is. It's a little complicated. It's a little, I'm going to put everything I have into this, and I've said this before. You know how I talk about unimaginable delights and uh, on whatever horrors, unspeakable horrors, unimaginable delights. Well, in spite of everything, in spite of the awareness that my next binge, and my former student said, he kind of understands junkie thinking, but from a civilian perspective, and he's not wrong on this. Where he says that you might tell yourself that it's going to be the last time, but it won't be the last time, unless you really, really mean it and you make a conscious. Now that's where he doesn't quite get it, because for an addict, it's not a conscious decision as such. It doesn't quite work that way. Every addict at the end of a binge, at the end of a use, they always say, "This is the last time. This is the last time. This is the last time." Every time. So, and usually addicts stop when they hit a wall. Now, this last binge was a pretty bad wall. It was pretty low. Don't really want to go lower than this. Plus, I've got a public record of it, So I have hit a wall, but it's a very powerful addiction. And as I said in the last podcast, without giving a lot of details, it's a dual addiction, which makes it much worse, And the danger just adds to the high, However, at this point, the kids, my friends, the tasks I still have left, the wanting to publish my work, more podcasts, all of that, I will give it everything I've got. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it, but this is the first step. So this is step one, and I sent an email to my friend about all of this, and I said, this is step one, is I'm starting another series of podcasts. Now that I've shown just how bad the addiction was, where the dark journey took me, where my and my analyst, by the way, he likes the metaphor that he says, he agrees with me. He goes, it's not a werewolf anymore, it's a dragon. And dragons are, they're very symbolic beasts for Jungians and stuff, and they're very, very powerful, So we're now facing the dragon, So at this point where I am, I've shown how bad the addiction was, and I've shown, where the dragon took me. Now I have to try to show step by step how I try to get back, whether it can be done. Much earlier, people have told me that you cannot beat addiction on your own without rehab or 12-step, or anything, something like that. I do have my analyst, but it's like, slightly different, and I've said this before. If it hadn't been for my analyst, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be alive now. I've been seeing him for 30 years. So without him, without the whole process, I wouldn't be here. So anyway, so I've got my analyst, I've got the kids, I've got my friends. So, and I did tell my friend, because she's very, very worried, and she did say, when she suggested, she said, you might not want to go to rehab, but it's not about you anymore. It's about, being a cat person. She goes, it's more about your kids. And she was like, you might if you go to, and I emailed her back saying, what happens to my kids for a month or 2 months when I'm in a residential rehab? And her reply was, what happens to your kids when you're dead? Then you're not coming back from rehab. Then you are, So I probably will be able to, if worse comes to, and I've told her, worst comes to absolute worst, try the Rockstar Rehab, the expensive one, with the personal trainer and stuff, putting so much money into the addiction, I may as well put it into the journey back. So if worse comes to worst, So, well, actually, you know what? If I have another binge, I don't think it's going to be a question of rehab because I'm not coming back from it, So anyway, but if I get really, really, really close to a binge, and I know that I'm not going to be able to do this on my own, seriously look at our rehabs again and make arrangements for the people to look after my kids while I'm away. So but I'm kind of hoping I can do this on my own. I really am. I've done it before on my own, but it's a question of how long it sticks. And the longest was after the 20-year stretch, but the longest was 19.5 months. But that recursion in September, and then more recursions in January, and then the last ones have been really, really bad. It's just the exponential nature of addictions and how they progress. So this series is going to be the Nutty Professor attempts to return to the ordinary world. And I do realize, in spite of the awareness, in spite of how bad it was, in spite of the hugest pushes imaginable, my children, and every second that I spend with them, this morning when I was lying in bed, and even now, every second, I am grateful to be here with them, to have them, to be around them. I just hope it's enough. And my friends, my human friends, I don't see them much, and I it's, as I said to one of them, it's quality, not quantity. So it's like four or five people, and then my niece and her kids. And that's about it for the humans that I give a shit about. That I really more than that I really care about. And that seem to care about me. So that to me is enough of an incentive. I can't imagine anything stronger than that. And if that doesn't bring me back from the edge, nothing will, So, and I think it will, I think it will, So the steps are now, the Nutty Professor attempts to return to the ordinary world. And I told my friend, this is step one. Step one is, since I did the other thing publicly, I might as well do the return publicly. If nothing else, it'll reassure my friends. So when I post these, you'll see I'm still alive. So, my friend out of province was about an hour away from calling the local friend to check if I'm still alive. So, if nothing else, it'll reassure that I'm still alive, and it will chart this progress. And again, I have so few viewers, but it's there. And, as I said, if anybody is helped by these, fine. If not, fine. If you just want to see what it's like to struggle with addiction, you find it kind of, informative in a dark way, And as I've said, there is a dark humor, but those elements I can't really talk about here, So that will have to, so that's the next step. I also want to get back to writing, So maybe today. I haven't done a journal entry in a week, and for me, that's the longest stretch, just because I was so caught up in it, So that's the goals now are, to try to, eat a little bit more regularly, take my diabetes meds, of course, feed the kids regularly, be here with the kids, just enjoy the kids, appreciate the kids, each and every second, which I do. That's not that I don't, I love, I got to tell you something. So I was sending an email to my friend, the one out of province, who I know is very, very worried about me. So I was sending an email with this idea of return and a series about, a return journey. So this will be not the dark journey, I really hope that was bottom. I can't imagine it being much lower than that, but you never know. There are depths to addiction, you know. So, but I really hope that was bottom, you know. So anyway, so as I try to return, as I try to claw my way back up, you know, for them and my friends, you know, and maybe helping one or two other people if this shit can help anyone, fine, you know. So, but I'm going to do this, you know, to a certain degree publicly, and I'm going to try to get back to my writing, and later I might go for. I was thinking of going for a walk, fresh air. See, Nutty Profs are a version of the rehab where they have the personal trainer to come in and make you do the exercise tailored to your recovery, you know. So the exercise tailored to the Nutty Professor return project will be just making it out of the apartment and making it to a bench by the lake and sitting down. Right now, that's enough exercise. But if I can walk a little bit further, fine. You know, and then I don't know. I've got some stale food in here, and I wasn't sure if I can face the outside. But the outside world may not be a bad thing, you know, at this point. So let's see. Let me post this. You know, let me finish this. Let me post it, and then maybe a little fresh air, and maybe drive to one of my favorite restaurants, Tibetan or something, you know, and have a nice supper, you know, and then come back to the kids, and then try to write. I mean, even a page at this point, a page, 2 pages, just saying, "It's me, I'm back," you know, just that, you know, just a little bit, just to get back into the writing, you know. I do have writing in the sense that over the last few days I've got all the emails, kind of long, but you know, emails and texts I have been exchanging with friends. I guess that kind of counts as writing. And if I ever make this, and I ever need material to describe what I've been, written material to describe what this process has been like right now, I do have those. My own writing that I was telling others about, you know, what I've been going through. So, but I will try to at least reopen my journal entries. So, you know, and then I my former student, you know, the one who is non-addictive, you know, it's very worried now, you know, because he didn't realize how bad it was until he saw the podcast, the latest series, and he's making suggestions like, you know, you should take a course in real estate or something to keep yourself busy. And I said, I have a plan in that direction. The plan in that direction is to get my contractor to finish my house, and I'm going to have to scare my contractor. I'm going to have to maybe you know, he's not really good. He doesn't go online much. Doesn't really answer his emails. But, you know, next time I see him, I'm going to have to sit him down and play him a couple of those tapes and say, look, if you don't finish this house, there will be no point in finishing it because I won't be here. So the point, the thing is to get him to, it's only like 3 or 4 weeks work left. It's just, you know, but the point is to get him to finish that house so that I can sell it, you know, get that money and buy a house in the town nearby, maybe half an hour away. But where I am is it's by the lake, but it's very isolated. And I don't think it's a good place to be battling dragons, you know. Sitting there with my kids at night in the dark, there's no sidewalks, there's no traffic lights, there's no, you know, street lights. So I've been looking at properties, and that will be a huge push. That will be a huge rechanneling process for me, you know. The whole thing of getting that house finished, setting it up to sell, you know, selling it, and house hunting, finding a house, you know, buying it, transferring the stuff, it's all in boxes already anyway, to the new house, and starting to, you know, and pack it up, and then I can go out there with the kids. The babies will love to sit by the windows and see the you know, birdies. And I wanted, you know, a simple house, nothing fancy. You know, I don't want anything fancy, just like a slide split, you know, just a slide split, a family house for my family, you know, for my furry family, so that we can, you know, we can go out there. And I was going to put a barrier between the upper section and the lower section for Geetha to have her own space, but we don't need that now. This is a blended family, but people can pick their own favorite spots, and we'll have a basement, and we'll have, you know, all of that. So they can run around, they can sit and watch birdies. I may have a catio built, an enclosed area at the back. And then it'll if it's a residential neighborhood, I can just, when the cravings are really bad, I can just go out for a walk. It's a very friendly area, kind of don't have to talk to people. We can wave to people. They're very friendly out there. And then just go to a Tim's, sit and have a coffee, and then come back to the kids and do some writing and reading and just a change, just a fresh start, just out of here. So I've really got to get my contractor to move on this, in 4 years. So I've got to get him to move on this, and and I don't want to stay in that house. It's just too much involved there, and it's been just too long, and it's so I want to get moving, So at least I'm making plans. So that's a good sign, So it's day by day. I understand that. You know what? It's minute by minute. But in spite of how much of a scare I had, how scared my friends are, I apologize. Sorry about that. Because I really scared them. But anyway, in spite of how worried my friends are, how worried my analyst is, worried my kids are, but as I've said this before, the kids have stepped up. So I do feel that I have a responsibility to reciprocate here. They've done everything they could for me. Oh, I didn't tell you the best part. So there I am writing about these plans to my friend in an email, and Agita comes, and everybody who watches these knows about Agita's personality, and she doesn't like to be touched. She climbs onto my chest. She actually climbs onto my chest, my lap, and she purrs, and it's like 3 minutes, which for Agita would be like 3 months with a regular cat, because she does not like to be touched. So if that's not, and I was just writing to my friend about the cats and the effort that they've made to keep me here, and how I kind of have to make an effort now. And at that very moment, she climbed onto my lap. Agita, the social distancing queen, climbed onto my lap and sat here for 3 minutes. And I petted her with like the left hand while I was typing with my left finger. So, and then she got up. That's so we've got an open blended family here. This is unbelievable that we have this. So I want to come back. And my other friend, the non-addict one, he was saying you just have to make a conscious decision to break the habit. Doesn't quite work that way, but we'll talk more about this, because this is something that I need to discuss as conscious, unconscious, Freudian terms. This is the battle now, Thanatos and Eros, and in my case, the Eros does have that other element too. This is life instincts versus death instincts, and the role of the ego and all of that. So we'll discuss, conscious and my other friend, the local cat rescuer. She's also non-addictive. We had a long conversation once about how, there with cats and catnip, it breaks down into law of thirds. Some cats, love catnip, and they just want more and more. And then some cats just does nothing for them. They hate it, just nothing. And then one group, in betweens, they get a little bit of a kick out of it, but they don't go crazy over it. Now we all know which group I'm in, and my friend is in the doesn't do a thing for her group, she's, but she, to try to understand my addiction, because she's not addictive herself, she's put it into a framework of depression. And she says that, like with people who are depressed, it's not that they want to be depressed. It's not that you're going to choose to be depressed. It's and when the suicidal thoughts come and all of that, you don't have a choice. So she's kind of, and she says, I can't see you wanting to put yourself into that situation. And she's right. It's a compulsion. It's a possession. It's a compulsion. It's a little bit more complicated than that too, but it does help her to understand it. It's a metaphor, so I'm going to go with that. And it's true. It's sort of like that, but it's not. I'll try to explain this more as we proceed. If I can, but for now, it's going to be one step at one paw in front of the other, and 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. And I will do everything I can to come back for my kids and also for my friends. They'll be very upset. I know they'll be very upset. And I'll miss them. I would, So anyway, that's where we are. So I'm gonna post this, and then maybe I'll go out for a little fresh air. On the list somewhere is to tidy up this place, but my friend agreed with me. She says, at this point, we're dealing with much more serious issues. So even if it takes a few days to get to that, that's okay. So from 1 baby, 2 baby, and Agita. And this seems to be now our favorite positions. One baby takes the bed with me when I'm sleeping. Agita's there, and the other baby is usually there, so he can keep an eye on us. But right now it's daytime, so he's there. So from my family, from the family that is keeping me here, and the family that I will do everything I can to stay with. Okay, from my family, from my 3 wonderful kids, and this one. I'm not going to try to touch Giza because she doesn't like it, But Giza is also a very sweet cat, Anyway, from the 4 of us, I'll let you know how the battle goes, And I will give this everything I got. I have to, Anyway, bye for now.